The desert planet of Korath was harsh. Its sun burned the sky red and the winds whipped sand across the mining colony where humans and aliens lived side by side. Tents, metal shacks, and machinery were scattered across the landscape. A mix of human ingenuity and alien design. Humans had come here to mine rare minerals, while the local alien species, the Zeral, claimed the planet as their own. Tension was constant. One wrong move could start a fight. Captain Elias Kane walked through the colony, his boots crunching on the hot sand. His eyes scanned the area carefully. Elias was a human engineer soldier, strong and quick, but more than that, he had a sense of fairness that set him apart. The colony's human workers trusted him, and some of the aliens respected him, though most preferred to keep their distance. Today, Elias wasn't patrolling for danger. He was checking the new water filters in the human section. The Zeral had little interest in human systems, and that was fine by him. As he bent over a large pipe, a loud crash echoed from the alien quarter nearby. Elias straightened, frowning. The sound came again, louder this time. He ran toward it, ignoring the sand that stung his face. Around the corner he saw it. A young Zero boy, no older than 10, banging violently on a set of human mining equipment. Sparks flew and the metal groaned. "Stop! That's not yours," Elias shouted, running toward the boy. The boy froze for a moment, his bright green eyes wide, but before he could run, several Zero guards appeared. They were large, with sharp claws and armored scales, and their faces were stern. They grabbed the boy roughly, pulling him away from the machine. "You little fool," one guard hissed. "Do you not know the rules?" The boy struggled, crying out, but the guards were strong. They began to hit him with their hands and batons, intending to teach him a harsh lesson. Elias's stomach turned. He had seen many fights between humans and aliens, but he had never watched a child get beaten. Without thinking, he ran forward. "Stop! Leave him alone!" The guards looked at him in shock. One raised a claw, pointing at Elias. "This is not your concern, human. Step back, or you will be next." "I will not watch a child be hurt," Elias shouted. He threw himself between the guards and the boy, his body tense and ready. The Zeral were taller and stronger, but Elias was fast and he had trained for situations like this. The boy clung to Elias's leg, shivering. Elias felt a surge of anger. He knew this could start a bigger fight. The other humans nearby had frozen, unsure whether to intervene. He took a deep breath and said firmly, "You will not touch him. Not now. Not ever." For a tense moment, no one moved. Then the chief guard growled, stepping closer. "You dare protect a Zeral child? This is dishonor. You will regret this." Elias did not flinch. His hands were empty, but his stance was ready. "Maybe. But if I regret saving an innocent, I will live with it proudly." The guard glared at him, then barked an order. The other guards hesitated. Elias saw the boy's tears streaking down his face and knew he had to act quickly. Using his speed, he grabbed the boy and moved to a safer spot behind some metal containers. The guards lunged, but Elias ducked and dodged, using his momentum to keep them from reaching the boy. Finally, the chief guard snarled, "Enough! Take him back. But the human, he will answer for this later." Elias did not wait. He held the boy tightly and ran. They went behind a stack of cargo crates where the boy could hide. Elias crouched next to him, brushing the sand from his face. "Are you okay?" Elias asked gently. The boy nodded, sniffling. I didn't mean to break it." "I know," Elias said. "You just made a mistake, that's all. You'll be fine. But you must stay with me for a little while." The boy's name came out in a whisper. "Taro." "Okay, Taro," Elias said. "You're safe now, I promise." From the edge of the alien quarter, a tall female Zeral watched. Her armor gleamed in the sun, and her eyes burned with a mix of fury and curiosity. This was Zira, Taro's mother, known among the Zeral for her strength and strictness. She had seen every moment of the confrontation. Her son, her pride, had been humiliated, And yet the human had interfered, shielding him from punishment. Zira's claws flexed. Anger surged through her. No Ziril would ever allow a human to protect their child. And yet, there was something in the human's eyes. Courage, determination. A refusal to back down even when facing certain harm. She turned away, frowning. This human was different. Dangerous. Not because he was strong, but because he could not be intimidated. She would have to deal with him, but not yet. For now she wanted to see what this human was made of. Elias stayed with Taro until the boy stopped trembling. He knew this would not end well with Zira, but he could not abandon the child. That was not who he was. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, painting the desert red, Elias looked at Taro and then at the alien quarter in the distance. He knew the Ziril mother would come for him. He also knew he could not hide. This was just the beginning. The human had stood for what was right, even against overwhelming odds, and in doing so he had set a chain of events into motion that could change the fragile balance between humans and Ziril forever. Elias tightened his grip on Taro's hand and whispered, "We'll face whatever comes together." And somewhere, in the shadows, Zira's eyes followed them. Her anger burned, but beneath it was a grudging respect, something rare among the Ziril. Something dangerous for Elias, but also something that might just lead to an unexpected alliance. The desert wind howled around them as night fell, carrying with it the promise of challenges, courage, and a bond that neither species could yet understand. Night fell over the Korath colony, and the desert wind carried a chill that cut through even the thickest human jackets. Elias Kane sat with Taro behind a stack of cargo crates, keeping watch over the boy. Taro's small hands trembled as he clutched a piece of cloth for comfort, his green eyes wide with fear and guilt. Elias had seen fear many times in his life, during battles, during dangerous missions, but this was different. This was a child, facing the wrath of his own mother, and a mother who would not forgive easily. From the edge of the alien quarter, Zira watched. Her large, armored form shimmered in the moonlight, her eyes sharp and calculating. Fury burned inside her, but so did curiosity. No human had ever dared to shield her son from punishment. Most humans would have run or begged. Elias had done neither. He had risked himself. Zira stepped forward, her heavy boots crunching on the sand. The guards who had been with Taro earlier followed her at a distance, unwilling to intervene. She moved silently, a predator in the night, until she reached the edge of the cargo crates. "You," she hissed, her voice low but commanding. Elias looked up and his chest tightened. He had expected confrontation, but the intensity of her gaze startled him. "I am Elias Kane," he said calmly, standing to his full height. "And I did what I had to do." Zira's claws flexed, her armored fingers clicking. "What you did was unacceptable. No human interferes in Ziril discipline, and you protected my child. Do you know what that means?" "Yes," Elias replied. "It means a child was in danger. I could not let him be hurt. I will not let him be hurt." Zira's nostrils flared. "Do you understand the consequences of your actions? The shame you bring? The dishonor? You have challenged me, human. You have challenged our way of life." "I understand," Eliasu said firmly, "and I accept whatever comes, but I will not regret protecting an innocent." For a long moment, Zira stared at him. Then she let out a deep sigh, almost a growl. "You are reckless, foolish, and yet I cannot ignore your courage. Humans are weak, but you are not weak. You do not fear what you should fear. That is strange." Elias raised an eyebrow. "Strange is often the first step to understanding." Zira's eyes narrowed. "You are bold with words, human. Bold with action. You have risked yourself for a child who is not yours. You could have died tonight." "I know," Elias said quietly. "And I would do it again. Children do not deserve to be beaten for mistakes, not anywhere, not by anyone." Taro peeked from behind Elias, unsure whether to trust this alien or not. Zira's face was unreadable, her expression a mixture of anger, confusion, and something else. Elias noticed Taro's nervous glance and gently patted his shoulder. "You did the right thing," he whispered. "Nothing else matters right now." Zira stepped closer, her shadow falling over Elias and Taro. "You have potential," she said finally. "Potential and recklessness. I will not punish your child today, but I cannot let this go." Elias kept his stance steady. "Then I accept what comes, I am ready." Zira studied him for a long moment, then turned abruptly and motioned for the guards to leave. "Go," she commanded. They disappeared into the shadows. Then she looked back at Elias. "I will test you. Your courage, your strength, your loyalty. You must prove your worth, not just to me, but to my people." Elias frowned. "A test?" "Yes," Zira said, her voice firm. "The Zero respect power, strength, and now you have my attention. You will face trials. You will show me why you deserve to act as you did tonight. If you fail, the consequences will be severe." Taro's eyes widened. "Trials?" he whispered. Elias knelt beside the boy. "It seems we have a challenge ahead," he said softly. "But I will face it. Together." Zira's gaze lingered on them for a moment longer. Then, without another word, she vanished into the darkness, leaving a swirl of sand behind her. Elias exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of what had just happened was no ordinary conflict between humans and... The desert sun rose like a burning fire over Korath, casting long shadows across the rocky terrain. Elias Kane had slept little, keeping watch over Taro. He knew the test from Zira would come soon. The Zeral were proud, strict, and cunning. If Zira's challenge had begun, there would be no room for error. Taro sat quietly beside Elias, watching the sun rise. "Do you think she'll be fair?" the boy asked nervously. Elias smiled gently. "Fair? Probably not, but she will be honest. That counts more than fairness sometimes." Before Taro could ask another question, a sudden movement caught their attention. From the edge of the desert plain, Zira emerged, towering and imposing, in her armor. Behind her, a few of her warriors moved like shadows, keeping their distance. Elias rose steady and ready, as Zira stopped a few meters away. "Today, human," Zira said, her voice carrying across the rocky plains, "you face the trial of courage. You will enter the wilds beyond the colony and retrieve the relic of Taler, a sacred artifact. It is guarded by traps, creatures, and the land itself. Only those with courage, wisdom, and strength may succeed. Fail, and you will pay the price." Elias nodded, understanding the gravity. "I accept the trial," he said firmly. Zira's eyes narrowed. "Good. You leave now, guided only by your wits and heart. The desert will judge you." With that, she turned, leaving Elias and Taro at the edge of the wilderness. Elias glanced at the boy. "Stay here," he said. "I will return with the relic. I promise." Taro looked worried. "Are you sure? It sounds dangerous." Elias knelt, meeting Taro's gaze. "Danger is part of life, but I'll do my best and I'll be back. Trust me." Taro nodded reluctantly, watching Elias move into the rocky, wind-swept hills that marked the beginning of the wilds. The desert was harsh. Rocks jutted out at impossible angles, the sand shifted underfoot, and the wind carried a biting chill. Every step Elias took was careful, each one a calculation. Soon he encountered his first challenge, a narrow ravine, too wide to jump, with jagged rocks below. At the far end, a glowing mark hinted at the path forward, but the gap seemed impossible. Elias scanned the area, considering his options. He found an old discarded mining cable and a few metal rods nearby. Using them, he fashioned a makeshift bridge. His hands were raw and bleeding from the effort, but he crossed carefully, proving that human ingenuity could overcome natural obstacles. Further into the wilds, he heard the distant roar of a predator. The Zeral had warned him of the creatures that roamed here, massive four-legged hunters with armored hides and sharp claws. Elias slowed, listening carefully. The sound came closer. Then he saw it. A predator, bigger than a human, moving with silent grace. Elias remembered his training. He could not fight it head-on. Strength alone would not win. Using shadows, rocks, and careful steps, he managed to stay out of sight. At the last moment, he created a diversion, tossing a rock far away, drawing the creature off the path. His heart pounded, but he had survived. Each obstacle tested not only his strength but his mind. He realized that courage alone would not be enough. Wisdom, patience, and quick thinking were just as important. Finally, after hours of navigating treacherous terrain, Elias found the relic of Talar. It was a crystal, glowing softly, placed atop a natural pedestal surrounded by spikes and thorn-like growths. One wrong step could mean serious injury. Elias studied the area carefully, noting the safe path. Using careful timing, he avoided the traps and reached the pedestal. He lifted the relic carefully, feeling its weight and the energy it seemed to emit. He smiled, one step closer to completing Zira's trial. But as he turned to leave, a sudden noise made him freeze. The desert itself seemed to shift. Rocks tumbled, the wind howled louder, and the ground beneath him began to tremble. A mechanism, ancient and powerful, had been triggered by taking the relic. Elias realized he had to move quickly. He remembered a narrow crevice nearby. Timing his steps carefully, he darted across the trembling ground, leaping over jagged rocks, sliding under low-hanging spires, and avoiding falling debris. Each movement required not just courage, but precision and quick thinking. Finally, he reached a safe spot, panting and bruised. He held the relic tightly, realizing the lesson Zira intended. This trial was not just about strength, it was about resourcefulness, courage, and heart. The Zeral underestimated humans, assuming only physical power mattered. But humans had adaptability. Humans had intelligence and courage. As he rested for a moment, he heard a small, familiar voice. "You're amazing," whispered Taro from the shadows nearby. The boy had followed, unseen. Elias smiled, brushing sand from his armor. "You should stay hidden," he said. "It's too dangerous for you." Taro nodded, eyes wide. "But I wanted to help. You taught me something. Courage isn't just about fighting. It's about thinking and acting when it's hard." Elias chuckled softly. "Exactly. You're learning fast." Together they planned the way back. Elias knew Zira would be watching, and he wanted to return with the relic intact. Using the knowledge he had gained navigating the traps, he retraced his steps carefully, avoiding the predator and the shifting rocks. When they finally reached the edge of the wilds, Zira was waiting. Her gaze was sharp, her arms crossed. "You survived," she said, a note of approval in her voice. "You retrieved the relic of Talar. Impressive. Most humans would have failed." Elias handed her the relic. "It was not easy, but I did what I had to do." Zira studied him, then nodded slightly. "You have courage, human, and resourcefulness. Strength alone is not always the answer. You have learned well today, though. Your trials are not over. The next will be harder." Elias straightened, ready for whatever came next. "I understand. I will continue. Whatever it takes." Taro ran forward, hugging Elias briefly. "You were incredible. I want to be like you." Elias smiled, ruffling the boy's hair. "You already are brave, Taro. You just have to keep learning." Zira watched the exchange silently, her expression softening slightly. Though still stern and proud, she realized that Elias's actions had taught not just Taro, but even her, something important. Humans were underestimated, but their courage, ingenuity, and heart could make a difference, even in the harshest worlds. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the desert, Elias, Taro, and Zira stood together for a brief moment. The trial had begun, and the bonds between human and alien were growing, forged by courage, trust, and respect. The path ahead would be difficult, but Elias knew he could face it, with Taro by his side and with his human heart guiding him. The desert wind whispered around them, carrying the promise of challenges yet to come, and the knowledge that bravery and intelligence could triumph even where strength alone failed. The desert air was thick with tension as Elias Kane and Taro returned. From the wilds, the relic of Talar clutched firmly in Elias's hands. Zira waited for them at the edge of the colony, her towering form illuminated by the late afternoon sun. Her gaze, sharp and unyielding, rested on Elias. "You survived the first trial," she said, her voice carrying across the sand. "Few humans could endure what you faced. Few would think so clearly under pressure. But the next trial will not test your courage alone. It will test your mind." Elias nodded, feeling the weight of her words. The first trial had been physical, yes, but it had also required intelligence and quick thinking. He knew Zira would push him further this time. Taro, small and silent beside him, watched the alien mother with a mixture of awe and nervous curiosity. "What is the next trial?" Elias asked. Zira's eyes gleamed. "A duel of strategy and resourcefulness. You will face challenges designed to test your ability to adapt, to think quickly, and to work under pressure. If you succeed, you will earn respect, not just from me but from the Zeral. Fail and the consequences will be severe." Elias felt a thrill of determination. "I am ready." The trial began at a nearby canyon, where the land twisted into narrow paths, sudden drops, and hidden crevices. Zira's guards placed obstacles along the route, mechanical traps, shifting stones, and other dangers designed to slow him down. Elias approached carefully, his human intuition alert. Unlike the Zeral, who relied primarily on strength and speed, he relied on observation, improvisation, and ingenuity. The first obstacle was a collapsed bridge over a deep chasm. The wooden planks were broken, some hanging precariously. A Zeral might have tried to leap or climb recklessly, but Elias paused, examining the structure. Nearby, he found a bundle of strong vines left by the Zeral as part of the trial. With careful knots and a makeshift harness, he created a temporary rope bridge. Step by step, he crossed, feeling the strain in his arms but never faltering. Taro watched quietly from a distance, his admiration growing. "Humans really are clever," the boy whispered. "They have to be," Elias said softly, glancing back. "Cleverness can save a life more than claws or armor." As they moved further, the next challenge appeared, a canyon path filled with moving stone platforms. The platforms shifted unpredictably, leaving gaps that could send someone plummeting into the shadows below. Elias studied the pattern carefully. Timing each step, he moved with precise calculation, adjusting his speed and balance to match the shifting stones. One slip could have ended the trial in disaster, but his patience and observation gave him the advantage. "See, Taro?" Elias called softly. "Sometimes it's not the fastest or the strongest who succeed, it's the one who watches, thinks, and adapts." The morning sun rose over the canyon, casting golden light across the jagged rocks and narrow paths. Elias Kane and Taro had spent the night resting, but their minds were alert. Zira's next trial promised to be more complex than any before. This time it was not just about courage or resourcefulness, it was about teamwork, empathy, and thinking under pressure. Zira appeared at the edge of the canyon, her towering armored form outlined by sunlight. She did not speak immediately. Instead, she studied Elias and Taro carefully, her sharp eyes observing every movement, every expression. Finally, she spoke. "Today, human," she said, her voice carrying across the canyon, "you will face the trial of the mind. It is a duel of strategy and thought. You will encounter challenges that require cooperation, trust, and understanding. Success depends not on brute strength, but on intelligence, foresight, and the ability to work with others, even those different from yourself." Elias nodded, understanding the stakes. "I am ready." Zira motioned toward the canyon path ahead. It was a labyrinth of natural and artificial obstacles, bridges with missing planks, corridors blocked by shifting rocks, and strange alien mechanisms that required clever solutions. The path was also patrolled by small automated drones designed to test vigilance and adaptability. The first challenge appeared quickly: a narrow stone bridge suspended over a deep chasm. Half of the planks were missing and the wind whipped violently through the canyon. Taro looked terrified, gripping Elias's arm. "You can do this," Elias said firmly, crouching beside him. "We'll cross together. Step carefully, follow my lead, and trust me." Taro nodded. Elias led the way, moving slowly, testing each step before advancing. The wind threatened to knock them off balance, but Elias used his weight and agility to shield the boy. Halfway across, a plank snapped under his foot, sending a small cloud of dust into the canyon below. Elias adjusted quickly, using his strength to stabilize himself, and pulled Taro safely forward. "See?" he whispered as they reached the other side. "Courage is important, but careful thinking saves lives." The next obstacle was more complex: a corridor filled with swinging mechanical spikes. The pattern seemed random, and any mistake could be fatal. Elias observed carefully, noting the timing. He motioned for Taro to stay low and move only when the spikes shifted upward. Step by step they advanced, working together, relying on trust and communication. "You're really clever," Taro whispered, eyes wide. "You're learning," Elias replied with a smile. "Teamwork makes cleverness stronger." The duo's progress was soon interrupted by another challenge: a puzzle gate blocking the canyon's exit. It was covered in alien symbols and mechanical levers. Zira's trials were never simple. Elias studied the gate, recalling patterns he had observed in the Relic of Talar and the previous trials. Slowly, he began manipulating the levers, testing their effects and adjusting his approach. Taro watched intently, offering small suggestions based on observations he had made. "Maybe this lever moves the symbol on the left," he said hesitantly. Elias considered the boy's idea. "You might be right," he said, gently adjusting the lever. The symbol shifted into place. Encouraged, Taro offered another suggestion, and together they solved the puzzle, opening the gate. Zira observed silently, her sharp eyes narrowing with thought. The human and the child worked as a team, adapting, thinking, and trusting each other. Her expectations had been surpassed. Humans were unpredictable, clever, and brave, but this was beyond what she had anticipated. Just as they reached the canyon's exit, a sudden challenge appeared. A small group of Ziral scouts from a rival clan had entered the canyon, hoping to disrupt the trial. They were armed, fast, and aggressive. Elias froze for only a moment before stepping forward. "Stay behind me," he whispered to Taro. "We can handle this, without fighting if we're clever." Elias used the terrain to his advantage. He led the scouts into a narrow corridor, where their numbers were useless. Using quick thinking, he triggered small rock slides to block their path and create confusion. The scouts, frustrated and trapped, eventually retreated, giving up their attack. Taro stared in awe. "You didn't even fight them," he said. Elias smiled. "Sometimes fighting isn't the best solution. Thinking fast, adapting, and staying calm, that's the human advantage." Finally, they reached the end of the trial path. Zira stood there, arms crossed, her face unreadable. Elias handed her a small orb they had found along the route, a symbol of their success in navigating the challenges. "You have succeeded in this trial," Zira said, her voice firm but tinged with respect. "You have demonstrated courage, intelligence, and empathy. You have worked together, human and child, to overcome obstacles that would defeat many warriors. You have shown that strength alone does not define victory." Elias nodded respectfully. "Thank you. I have learned much about your people and about courage in ways I did not expect." Taro ran forward and hugged Elias briefly. "I want to be like you," he said. "You already are brave," Elias replied. "Now, you're learning to think, act, and help others. That is what makes a hero." Zira's eyes softened slightly as she observed the boy and the human. She had expected only a human to face the trial, but she had seen the bond between Elias and Taro strengthen, the boy growing in courage and wisdom. The child had learned the value of empathy, trust, and intelligence. "You have passed this trial," Zira said finally. "But your journey is not over. The final trial will test your leadership, your ability to protect others, and your capacity to inspire. That is when true strength is revealed, not alone, but with the lives of others depending on you." Elias straightened. "I understand. Whatever comes, I will face it." Taro beamed. "Together?" "Yes, together," Elias said firmly. Zira's gaze lingered on them for a moment longer. Humans were strange creatures. They relied on more than raw power. They could think, adapt, and care in ways the Zeral rarely did. Elias had proven that humans could not only survive the trials of the wilds, but also outthink and outmaneuver the challenges that others assumed were impossible. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the canyon. Elias and Taro had grown stronger, smarter, and more confident. The bond between human and alien child was no longer fragile. It was firm, forged by courage, trust, and teamwork. As Zira turned to leave, she spoke over her shoulder. "Rest, human. The final trial will soon begin. Be ready to lead, to protect, and to inspire. Only then will your place in this world, and the respect of the Zeral, be secured." Elias looked at Taro, the boy's eyes full of trust and admiration. "No matter what comes," he said softly, "we face it together." The desert stretched endlessly before them, harsh and unforgiving. Yet it had witnessed something extraordinary. A human who did not give up, who thought, adapted, and cared. And in doing so, he had shown that true strength came not from power alone, but from courage, intelligence, and heart. The desert of Korath glowed under the first light of dawn, painting the jagged rocks and sand dunes in shades of gold and crimson. Elias Kane stood at the edge of the canyon, Taro beside him, ready for the final trial. Zira had not yet appeared, but Elias could feel her watchful presence. This trial would test everything he had learned: courage, intelligence, teamwork, and most of all, heart. "You ready, Taro?" Elias asked, adjusting his gear. Taro nodded, his green eyes bright with determination. "Yes. Together, right?" "Together," Elias affirmed. Suddenly, a series of loud cracks echoed through the canyon. From the shadows, a group of hostile aliens, members of a rival Zeral clan, emerged, their weapons glinting in the sunlight. They were fast, skilled, and aggressive. Their intent was clear: disrupt the trial and assert dominance. Elias froze for a split second, then stepped in front of Taro. "Stay close," he whispered. "We'll handle this carefully." The attackers advanced, but Elias was ready. He studied the terrain, noticing narrow passages, rocks, and shadows that could be used to their advantage. Strength alone would not win here. Clever thinking and courage would. He quickly led the group into a narrow canyon passage. The aliens' larger numbers became a disadvantage as the rocks restricted their movement. Using quick thinking, Elias triggered a small rock slide to block their rear, giving him control of the path ahead. The attackers growled in frustration, trapped by their own aggression. Taro watched, his admiration growing. "You're amazing," he whispered. Elias smiled briefly. Sometimes thinking is stronger than fighting, but the challenge was far from over. Another group of the rival clan appeared from above, attempting to ambush them from the cliffs. Elias realized they needed more than cleverness. They needed courage, speed, and precision. He turned to Taro. "We'll need to move carefully and trust each other completely. Watch my steps and follow exactly." Step by step, they navigated the canyon using rocks and shadows to shield themselves. Elias created diversions, using fallen stones and debris to mislead the attackers. Taro, small and agile, darted alongside him, learning quickly how to move silently and act strategically. Together, they formed a small but effective team. Finally, they reached a plateau where the rival aliens had cornered them. Elias knew they had no escape without confrontation, but brute force was not the solution. He scanned the area, spotting a narrow ledge that ran along the cliff above the attackers. "Follow me," he said, pointing to the ledge. Usry full balance and quick thinking, they climb up.